It is the final Phil Steele Friday of the 2025 season. We're going to get his thoughts on that matchup against the number five Texas Tech Red Raiders and a whole lot more here today on ITG.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
With special guest, Phil Steele.
Author of the College Football Bible.
He can see things before they happen. It's a Jedi trait.
All you gotta do is bet on the winner and you'll never lose.
Mountaineer Nation.
You are in the gun.
Hey, a real pleasure being on. Thanks for having me on the In the Gun podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another episode of the In the Gun podcast. It's Schuyler Callihan and the signal caller, Jed Drenning. We're going to be joined by Phil Steele here in just a few moments as it's the final Phil Steele Friday of the 2025 season. We're going to get his thoughts on that matchup against the number five Texas Tech Red Raiders. But before we do any of that, we got to make sure we send out a thank you to all those that make this show possible, starting with JR and Toothman Ford, where we all know cars cost less in Grafton. They do great NIL work with the Mountaineers, so help those that help the Mountaineers and help this podcast. To Rick Lewis and Fortis for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. Make sure to visit fortis.us.com. To Johnston Equipment on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. They got Coyote tractors, new and used, all bunch of stuff in their inventory. Thanks to them to stopping out to the tailgate a couple of weeks ago as well and see what they've got going on. And you can also check out their website at JohnstonEQ, that's with a T.com. And to the newest friends, the Book Exchange. Get all your Mountaineer gear and WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. Use that In the Gun 20 code, whether it's in person or online, and you can go check them out at downtown or at Evansdale on Patterson Drive. It is True Blue Weekend, Jed, and so you got to make sure you can use that In the Gun 20 code. As you mentioned yesterday, smartly, we don't know how much longer that thing's going to last, so we need to make sure we're taking advantage of that with Black Friday coming up here. Well, I guess it's today. We need to make sure you're getting into the store and using that code because we don't know how much longer that thing's going to last.
Correct. It's gone really well. A lot of people have called on that and saved a lot of money, and it's also driven some business in the direction of the Book Exchange, which was the whole point. So, In the Gun 20, if you haven't done so, it's easy. I did it physically in the store. Just tell them, hey, I want to use the discount code. I'm a fan of In the Gun 20, and they'll ring it up right there. You can save some major money. It's nothing to laugh at. It's not 5%, 10%, 20%'s a chunk, and it adds up fast. I know I saved considerable money using that thing.
Yeah, my wife came to me the other day and told me she saved about $80 on her order that I guess it's for me for Christmas. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little selfish here thinking it's for me, but maybe we'll get another helmet in the background here. I don't know. Maybe not. But all right, Jed, let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about this Texas Tech matchup. It's the final game of the season. Obviously, odds not in West Virginia's favor, but as we mentioned yesterday as well, crazier things have happened in Morgantown, and crazier things have happened in college football, for that matter. And that's why you play the game. I think it'd be one hell of a way to go out. Obviously, you don't get a bowl game, but one hell of a way to go out for this group of seniors, which is a large group, and for this team really to end the season on a high note, taking down a top five team. What do you say?
Well, double back and check the preview. We got really in depth with the matchups on both sides of the football against a team that I don't just think is ranked number five in the country. I genuinely believe, after studying them for the better part of the year, that they are one of the top five teams in the country. I mean, I think they might have the best front seven in college football.
Yeah.
It was money well spent. They got a really talented general manager in James Blanchard that targeted the appropriate kids that they needed. And the guys on that football team on both sides populating have made things happen for them. But I just thought it'd be interesting, completely meaningless as it might be. Take a look back to the regular season finale, Rich's first run at West Virginia, how those 7 games went. I just thought for posterity's sake, it'd be kind of neat to look at that. Some people remember some of these games, some they won't, some they wish they wouldn't,
Yeah,
some they'll love to
we could we
remember.
can we can
But
omit that last one maybe.
yeah, we might. So his first season in 2001, we went 3-8. Remember back in the day, Schuyler, when you would finish the season against Pitt?
Yep.
Okay, that was back in those days. At least oftentimes you would. Well, Pitt came to Morgantown, and West Virginia actually gave them a game. We weren't very talented at that point. We were in a rebuild mode, but lost to Pitt 23-17 in the regular season finale. Now, what happened the next year? We went to Pittsburgh, and we know what happened there. That was the Phil Braxton game.
Hmm.
West Virginia knocked off a ranked Pitt team 24-17 in the regular season finale. Snow blowing right at the end. I was there. I remember it. It was an epic win. And then if you want to fast forward to 2003, we played Pitt late, but not last. We actually closed the regular season against Temple and beat them 45-28. And then in 2004, boy, this was a tough one too. Down the stretch, I mean, we really had things humming. That was the first time with Rich here that we got a lot of preseason buzz. We had Rashid back, and Rashid met expectations. Ended up being Big East Offensive Player of the Year. But down the stretch, we stumbled. We got knocked off at home by Boston College, and then we went on the road and lost to Pitt. And this was one of those quirky years where you could have kind of limped into a BCS bowl, but it didn't happen. Pitt beat us 16-13 up in Pittsburgh. Jump forward to 2005 to the regular season finale. Of course, this was the season we went on to win the Sugar Bowl, and this was that quirky year that we played South Florida in Tampa,
Hmm.
the last game of the year, because it had to be rescheduled due to the hurricane from October, which left this gaping hole. We went from October 15th to November 2nd without playing a game because of that rescheduled South Florida game. This was, of course, the game where Pat White went off, had the two epic long runs where he covered so much real estate, zigzagging back and forth. West Virginia won at South Florida 28-13. And then in 2006, this was one for the ages too. Stepping in for an injured Pat White to get the start was Jarrett Brown against a really good Rutgers team. This was the Ray Rice Rutgers, and Rutgers was 13th in the country coming to Morgantown. And this was an epic football game, 41-39. West Virginia finally
Yeah.
prevailed, but Jarrett Brown made plays all day long, all night long. Another cold night in Morgantown. That was a big one, and for the regular season finale. And then, of course, the 2007 regular season finale. I don't remember what happened. So
I
uh,
think that was COVID, maybe. I
yeah, I
can't
think that was the
remember.
first COVID. That was the dry run for COVID. But so if you're wondering how West Virginia has fared, we did a video in the off season. It looked at West Virginia's history versus ranked teams. We broke it down several different ways: head coaches' records, quarterbacks' records as starters versus ranked teams. There was some surprising information on there, but by and large, all time, West Virginia versus ranked competition is about we've won about 27 or so percent of those games all time. Coach Nealon's also right around 27 or so percent. Rich is actually pushing 50%,
Hmm.
which somebody with double digit games against ranked teams, that's by far the best. Stu has the highest winning percentage. He won 2 of his 4 games against ranked teams. But Rich is the only guy with volume that's way up in the 40s. Nobody else is even in the 40s as far as head coaches go. But and then we even looked at West Virginia against top 10 teams, West Virginia against top 5 teams, which of course this is a top 5 matchup, and you can count them on one hand, Skylar. I
Yep.
mean, we've been playing football a long time. Now, the interesting thing about ranked teams is, and this is something that you'll learn if you take a deep dive into West Virginia against ranked teams back in the 50s, back in the 60s, head coaches' records and all that. The AP started in 1936 ranking teams. Now, we're talking about BCS, or excuse me, BCS. This is the CFP top 5 for Texas Tech, right? But if you look at Associated Press, top 5 teams or top 10 teams. That's what I'm basing this on, and that video is based on. The Associated Press started ranking teams in 1936. Our first game against a ranked team was against Fordham. That used to be a football power, believe it or not. I mean, a lot of people forget Vince Lombardi played at Fordham back in the 20s, even before the AP polls out. But our first win against a ranked team came later. That's fun to look at if you want to look at that video. But it's interesting, the evolution of how this played out. There were times where the AP poll stopped ranking the top 25 teams and just said, we're only ranking the top 10. So you didn't know who was 11, 12, 13, 14. You didn't know. They only ranked the top 10. So we have some head coaches who every game they had against a ranked team was against the top 10 team. That's why, because if you weren't the top 10, you weren't ranked, or at least we didn't know you were. So that's kind of interesting how the AP kind of ebbed in and out of that kind of mindset for periods throughout its history. But against ranked teams in the top 5 all time, this is my unofficial Jed math. So, Monty, if you're out there listening and I missed one, I go blind trying to count these things accurately, but sometimes you might miss. But I had us at 5-42 all time against ranked teams.
Which means the Mountaineers are due,
I'm not going to be a spoiler here, but that's right. I'm not going to be a spoiler here, but let's say this. We only have 5 in our history. You can literally count them on one hand, okay? So in the comments, list how many of those 5 that you know. I'm not even going to say remember, that you know, okay? That's worth knowing. Some of them are going to stand out in your mind right away, of course, right? And some are tricky. Like, you might think of some epic games that weren't against top 5 teams, but were against really good ranked teams, top 10 teams. Like, some people might jump to, Oklahoma in 1982. No, they were 9th in the country. They weren't a top 5 team. That wasn't one of the 5. So, anyway, leave it in the comments. We're not going to use it as a spoiler. 5-42, but see how many of those 5 you can list without cheating. We're on the Bill Stewart honor code here. Scout's honor, right? Never leave your wingman. Without looking it up, how many can you leave in the comments? Tell us how many of those top 5 ranked wins West Virginia has. And you know what? Heck with it. Why not see if we can go out and get number 6?
Yeah, let's see.
Tomorrow,
that's why they play the games, people. That's why they play the games.
The line now has ballooned up to 24.5 last I saw. So
ESPN, regardless of what they say, regardless what the book says, it doesn't matter. You just roll the ball out there and see what the hell happens, and look up and see what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, like Rich Rod always says. So we'll see if they can close it out with a big-time W. Hang tight on the other side. We're going to get Phil in the building. It's the last time he'll be joining us this season. Big 12 picks, top 25, and, of course, West Virginia versus Texas Tech.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
Back in the gun, and we have the man of the hour. It is Phil Steele here on Phil Steele Friday, and it's time to get into some of these matchups. Top 25 Big 12 in West Virginia versus Texas Tech. Phil, thank you for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving, and tell us what you got going on the website.
Yeah, as always, got the Phil Steele Plus Tour up and available for you right now. You get 5 free selections and 5 quick hitters, all absolutely free. 23, 13, and 1 over the last 7 weeks on the selections, and the quick hitters 33, 17, and 1, 66% over the last 9 weeks, all absolutely free. And by the way, the FCS playoffs start this weekend. The FCS plays went 4-0 last week on Saturday morning, so make sure you get those free FCS plays, including Yale over Harvard last week.
Well, let's start here in the down south, Georgia at Georgia Tech. Georgia obviously coming off that grueling win over Charlotte last week, and that's that week in the SEC where they take a step back, as Kurt Cignetti would like to say, or maybe even Dan Lanning with Chattanooga State or wherever that school is that no one's heard of. But you got Georgia Tech. The last 3 weeks, Phil, they lost to North Carolina State. They had to come from behind against Boston College, and then last week they dug themselves a hole against Pitt and couldn't recover. I don't know that they have the talent to be able to hold up here against Georgia, but can they hang in and make it close?
After talking to Coach Key after spring, he was counting down the days to the Georgia game. He really, really wanted this one big, was putting a lot of emphasis on it. Of course, last year they probably should have won. They were up by double digits in the fourth quarter, lost that thing in like 7 overtimes to Georgia. But what concerns me heading into this game for Georgia Tech is the defense. Their defense over the last 4 games has allowed 478 yards per game. They're giving their opponents 105 yards per game above their average. Meanwhile, Georgia, which came into the season without the star power of past Georgia teams, but they're just getting better and better each week. You go back to that Texas game, they won by 25. The defense now holding opponents to 99 yards below their average over the last 4 weeks. The offense has come alive. I think Gunnar Stockton's a legitimate Heisman candidate and may emerge as that here with the big game. And keep in mind, this game's also in the Georgia Dome. So while it's technically a home game for Georgia Tech, Georgia actually plays in this place a lot more. And I think they're going to have the crowd advantage as well. So as much as I would have leaned at the start of the year on Georgia Tech, I think the way their defense is playing, I got to go with this Georgia team and minus the points. They're laying less than about 13.5 in this game. So get it while it's less than 2 touchdowns.
Phil, let's in the SEC, let's jump over to Austin, and you got unbeaten Texas A&M. They survived against the Samford Bulldogs, picking on my Samford Bulldogs 48-0 last week. Meanwhile, Texas made Arkansas a little more interesting than maybe some people expected before separating in that game. Kind of still feeling the effects of that blowout loss against Georgia, but nothing would make the Longhorn season more than pulling an upset against Texas A&M to spoil their unbeaten season. Heated old rivals. What do you see playing out? Could this maybe be a legacy type game for Arch Manning, or is Texas A&M going to find a way?
Yeah, I like the Texas's chance here to pull the upset. Arch Manning seems to be getting better and better each week. Accounted for 6 touchdowns last week. And really, if you look at Texas A&M, the amazing thing about their schedule is that so far they have not beaten a team that has a winning SEC record this year. All the teams they have are at the below level of in SEC play. So Texas has played Georgia. They've played Oklahoma. And they played Ohio State naturally. Texas A&M did play Notre Dame, but in SEC play, they've taken on, I believe, 4 teams that have fired their coach this year. So I think the schedule is a little beneficial to Texas. Now, as far as the game goes, I think Texas still has slight hopes for a playoff shot, but this is a huge game for them. Texas A&M, of course, might be looking ahead a little bit to perhaps the SEC title game. They may not even get there, but they definitely are going to be in the playoff this year. I do think A&M's advantage is on the offensive line. They have a Joe Moore Award contending offensive line. Texas offensive line's a weakness, but the rest of the team, I think, can rally around it. So Texas as a home dog, very rare. I'm going to take Texas plus the points, pull the upset.
A big game in the big house, Ohio State and Michigan. The Buckeyes, they've been dominant every single week this season. The most points they've allowed in a game is just 16. So good luck to this freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, and that Michigan offense. Michigan's kind of quietly lurking around at 9-2. Yeah, I think a lot of people will be surprised to see kind of how well they've played at times this year, but they haven't necessarily been as dominant. They just keep winning games. I don't know if they can pull off the upset here, Phil, but you never know with this game.
Yeah, and last year Ohio State was a huge favorite heading in. The game was at home; they're going to get revenge, and Michigan beat them once again. I think now you look at Ohio State, you wonder each week when are these guys going to play somebody? I mean, when they did play Texas in the opener, they were outgained by 133 yards. It was a young Texas offensive line and a first-time starting quarterback, and they were at home. They had the advantage there. Maybe their most impressive game of the year was going into Washington, but even that game, they led by just one score in the fourth quarter. Lately, they've been beating teams like Rutgers, UCLA, Purdue, a Penn State team that really was in shambles when they took them on. So overall, a very soft schedule for Ohio State. This will be their first real test. And really, when you look at my AGG or average game grades on these two teams, I've got Michigan playing at 117 level, Ohio State at a 125. That's an 8-point difference. Factor in the home edge. That gives Michigan a shot here. I think as long as Michigan's able to run the football, they have a chance. The key is they're not going to have to not rely on Bryce Underwood, because Bryce Underwood would be taking on that Matt Patricia defense, which, as you mentioned, Schuyler, is playing fantastic this year. I'm going to lean a little bit with Michigan plus the points in this one.
Phil, we got the Iron Bowl. Let's look at this with Alabama heading to Jordan-Hare to take on the Tigers. This is literally the throw out the records game. Yes, from the outside looking in, you would expect Alabama to not struggle much, but the line is only 6.5 last I saw. What intrigues me here is Auburn, for all of its shortcomings and struggles this year, still leads the SEC in turnover margin, which is the recipe for upsets. So what do you see playing out on the Plains? Any chance for the Tigers here?
Yeah, it concerns me for Alabama. They need to pull out the win, and they always struggle in Jordan-Hare. Jordan-Hare is a place that has given them all kinds of fits. They needed that miracle at the end of the game to pull the last trip out. So, and Auburn's got a really good defense, holding opponents 80 yards per game below their average. Their problem is they've lost a lot of close games this year. Now Deuce Knight looked great last week running the football. They have 3 different quarterbacks they've used this year. I still think Bama's a better team. I'd like to see them run the football better. I think they're going to have to establish the run a little bit to win this game. I think it's going to be a really good football game. Alabama will be tested. It'll probably be a game in the fourth quarter. I'm going to lean a little bit with Alabama to come out with over a touchdown win, but I think it will be your typical Alabama-Auburn Iron Bowl game in Jordan-Hare.
Number 12, Miami making the trip up north to Pittsburgh, and both teams looking to find a way to not only win, but maybe get some extra help to get into the ACC title game. 6.5-point favorite. Here is the Canes. Do they take care of business against those Panthers?
I think Pitt's going to give them all they want. Pitt, ever since they went to Heinschel at quarterback, has been a completely different squad. Last week, they jumped out to that 28-0 lead against Georgia Tech. I think that 100-yard interception return was a key to them winning 42-28, but that was on the road against a really good team. Now they're at home. You've got the cold weather factor against the Miami boys going on, and Pitt's defense has really played well this year. I love their linebacking core, and they can get pressure on the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see if Carson Beck, who has 9 interceptions this year, can avoid the interceptions in this game. You got that big offensive line for Miami, but I'm going to say Pitt keeps it closer than expected and possibly pulls the upset here. I like Pitt plus the points.
Our co-host, Wes Uhler, Southwestern Pennsylvania's most preeminent Mountaineer, Phil, has said that our dream scenario is Pitt being the first team left outside the playoff field, and the committee actually saying, "Hey, with that West Virginia loss, we can't look past that." But at any rate,
and hey, with the one over Texas Tech, you might screw 2 people out. Maybe not that much.
Let's jump back to the SEC. Diego Pavia. You talk about what would be a cherry on top of a magical run that he's had at Vandy, going on the road against Tennessee. If they could find a way to pull this off, I'll tell you what. Despite these tight losses with the Vols this year, you'd have to think that they're crazy enough to maybe see some buzzards circling Josh Heupel down there. Who knows what this could lead to? But what do you see playing out with this intrastate game between the Vols and the Commodores?
Yeah, and last year Vanderbilt jumped out to a 14-0 lead in that game, and were feeling pretty good. They had the 100-yard kick return for a touchdown to open. It's 14-0. And then Tennessee just took over. It was 36-17. Vandy got a late 31-yard touchdown pass to make the final a 13-point loss. So I still think Tennessee's the better overall talented team. And they're at home, which is going to be a tough venue for Vanderbilt to travel to. But, Diego Pavia is if he wins this game and they make the playoff, I think Pavia is going to definitely be invited to New York. So this is going to be a key to Pavia's Heisman chances. And he is taking on a secondary that's vulnerable. You look at Tennessee, 3 times this year, they've given up over 300 yards passing. So the matchup sets up well for Vanderbilt. I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm going to call for the Vols to win by 3. I think that's right around the spread. To me, this is one of those popcorn games. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy watching it.
Let's hop over into the best and most talented conference in college football. That is the Big 12. Utah going on the road to Kansas. Here, Kansas looking to get a win to get bowl eligible. Utah obviously has a lot at stake. They're coming off a very close win over Kansas State. It was a shootout. What can we expect here? And do you feel like Kansas has been a bit of a disappointment this year, Phil?
Well, talking to Coach Leipold last year, and every position was, we're so many seniors. The whole team was loaded seniors last year. And then prior to my conversation with them in the spring this year, I'm like, wow, well, they lost all those seniors. They're going to struggle. He convinced me they'd be better than I thought, and they were early on, especially, I don't know if you guys remember that West Virginia game. But
yeah, try not to.
Going into UCF, coming out with the win, they were 4-2, but it has been a disappointment since then. Jalen Daniels at QB. They're good factor in this game would be I'm surprised Utah's defense is giving up. I mean, even the Baylor game, which they won comfortably, I think everybody looked at the final score, said they won by 27. Baylor gained 563 yards in that game. And then last week, 574 yards to Kansas State. Now, granted, a lot of them were big plays. 80-yard touchdown runs, 60-yard touchdown runs. They only had 21 first downs for the game. Ironically, Baylor had 28 first downs in the game against Utah. But I am getting a little concerned on the defense, giving up big plays. And Jalen Daniels, Daniel Highshaw, those are some guys that can get big plays for Kansas. However, I think overall Utah is the better team. They are a legitimate playoff contender. Their offense is almost unstoppable, and Kansas's defense giving opponents 21 yards per game above their average. So I do like Utah to go in there and win this one by over 2 touchdowns, but they need to tighten up that defense. They can't be giving up over 550 yards and think of themselves as a playoff contender.
Well, a second game in the Big 12, and it's a big one today on Friday, actually tonight at 9:00. The Territorial Cup, you got Arizona at 8-3, heading to Tempe to take on 8-3 Arizona State, a game potentially with Big 12 championship game implications. Noah Fafita is doing Noah Fafita things. He's been efficient. He's been dynamic when needed. He's had a great season. But I think what's the best kept secret coming out of Tucson is the Wildcats have the league's number 2 ranked defense. Defense travels well. What do you see playing out with Arizona in this rivalry game as a slight favorite heading to Tempe to take on the Sun Devils?
Yeah, and sometimes Vegas knows a little something, don't they? You would assume Arizona State would be a 3-point favorite at worst in this game, being the fact they're the defending Big 12 champs. They're coming off 3 straight wins. They seem to have gotten their season turned around. They beat Texas Tech at home, and they're taking on an Arizona team that was picked lower in the standings, has been playing well. You would think Arizona State would be at least a 3-point favorite. And as you mentioned, Jed, they are a 2.5-point dog. And I agree with you. I think and I agree with Vegas as well. I think when you look at Arizona, they've got the top pass defense in the country. They're taking on Jeff Sims. Now, Arizona State sort of kept Jeff Sims controlled. His problem his entire career has been interceptions. I think they haven't been letting him just whip that ball around. But if he starts doing it, like maybe if they get down, I think that Arizona pass defense could take advantage of it. So as good as Arizona State played last week in the second half against Colorado, I watched that Colorado game, and at the start of the third quarter, I thought Colorado had, I count good plays, bad plays in my head. I thought Colorado had like 62% good plays. Arizona State just 38%. Colorado led the thing 14-13, and then a couple of key turnovers, and all of a sudden it shifted in Arizona State's favor. So I agree with Vegas. I'm going to call for Arizona. In my mind, it would be an upset, but not in Vegas's mind. I like Arizona.
Here's another one that maybe it kind of is a little bit of surprising too is Baylor being favored over Houston. I know Houston lost two of their last three, of course, the one to West Virginia, but Baylor limps in, losing four of their last five, needs a win to get bowl eligible. Is the wrong team favored here?
This one I like Baylor. I think the good thing with Baylor is their defense was bad at the start of the year. I mean, they were giving up over 420 yards per game, but over the last 4 weeks, they have actually held their opponents to 72 yards per game below their average. So maybe Dave Aranda, who knows a little thing or two about defense, has finally got the right guys in the right position, and that offense. That's just unstoppable. I mean, you got Josh Cameron and Ashton Hawkins outside. You got Michael Trigg at tight end. You got Bryson Washington at running back. And the thing that they were lacking, and I thought it was very underrated story in back in August, was Dawson Pendergrass went out. Remember last year they had the Washington Pendergrass combo, and they were really dynamic in the backfield. Well, Caden Knighton has started to emerge at the running back position. In fact, last week he had a 100-yard effort. So now with two potent running backs, those potent receivers, Sawyer Robertson, 30 touchdown passes this year. I like that, and I like the fact Baylor seems to have got their defense corrected, holding opponents to 72 yards per game below their average. Houston's had a lot of games in my mind this year where they weren't overwhelming. You go back to the Oregon State game on the road; they were fortunate to win that. The Arizona game at home, they won by 3, and it could have gone either way. The West Virginia game, after the first quarter, I knew West Virginia was going to win that game. And even last week, they have a really good field goal kicker, miss a key field goal at the end. But losing to TCU, a team that hadn't impressed me all year, I like Baylor to come out of here with the win this week.
We have Colorado at K-State. Colorado, interesting team with some window dressing, some talent on the perimeter at the receiver spot. Juju Lewis seems to be making a little more progress each week behind center. They're a fundamentally different team on the road, but I got to wonder. You saw the emotionally charged loss that K-State suffered at Salt Lake City, but they went back to who they are. A lot of A-gap power, some gap scheme stuff. They ambushed Utah with running for 472 yards. Is this as simple as Colorado can't stop the run, dead last in the Big 12 against the run, and K-State's just going to run all over them and cover this big number?
I think you hit it right on the head, Jed. And a couple of factors here for me. I liked Colorado last week against Arizona State. And as mentioned, at the start of the third quarter, I was really pleased with my play of Colorado. I thought they were outplaying Arizona State. Then they came up short. Now, Juju Lewis going to redshirt, not going to play in this game. So they go back to Caden Salder or Ryan Staub. And now you're back to the quarterback carousel. And now I don't have a lot of faith in Colorado, what they've got coming in here. And as you mentioned, defensively, you thought that would be a strength like it was last year. But giving up 5.3 yards per carry is ridiculous. 6.2 yards per carry the last 4 games. And K-State, ever since that bye, they've basically had one bad game. And ironically, it wasn't one of their losses. The bad game to me was the Oklahoma State game, which they won by 8. They were actually outgained in that, out first down in that. But you go back to the Texas Tech game, 5 minutes to go, they're down by like single digits. They gave up 2 late scores. The Utah game, they could easily have won. The Baylor game, they could easily have won. They beat UCF. They beat TCU. They beat Kansas. So ever since the bye week, they've been playing a lot better. I think exactly like you had said, Jed, they run the ball down the throat of Colorado. I like K-State minus the points in this one.
Phil, I don't know if you saw, obviously, Eric Morris being hired at Oklahoma State, but he's actually 40 years old, a man, and he's 40 years old. Imagine that, Oklahoma State. So the new head coach will get to watch his team from afar this weekend. But what do you think about Iowa State going into Stillwater? Should be easy for them right this week.
Yeah, Oklahoma State's been playing better. As mentioned, 2 weeks ago, they played Kansas State, and actually watching the game, they really controlled the game against Kansas State. I think that's a game K-State might have taken them lightly. Zane Flores has looked decent at quarterback, although he's got a 3.6 ratio. But they had a 373, 284-yard edge, 23-14 first down edge. Now, last week against UCF, they jumped out to that 14-0 lead, and then UCF. You know how many yards Oklahoma State had in the second half of that game? 27 yards in the entire second half. So as good a first half they played, they didn't play well in the second half. Iowa State, the key for me, is Matt Campbell once again suffered a myriad of injuries on defense like he did last year, but now they're getting better and better by the week. I love the way they shut down Kansas last week, held them to 323 yards. They're going to be playing their best football at the end of the year, and I'm going to go with Iowa State to go on the road and get this one comfortably.
We'll talk about a popcorn game. You have Cincinnati on the road at TCU, two teams that it's going to be hot potato. One's 14th in a Big 12 in time of possession, the other's 16th in a Big 12. Neither one offense likes to stay on the field. Two of the better quarterbacks in the conference, and Josh Hoover and Brendan Sorsby. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored here. This could be fun to watch. What do you see playing out with the Bearcats on the road at Amon G. Carter?
Yeah, in the last 2 weeks, Sorsby took on my number 1 rated pass defense in Arizona and then the number 2 pass defense in BYU. Now he takes on more of a pass defense to his liking. And if you go back and look at that BYU game last week, Cincinnati played BYU a lot better than the final score would indicate. In fact, if you go through the game for the Bearcats, they got stopped on downs at the BYU 3-yard line. They missed a field goal. And they had a reliable field goal kicker. Then they missed another field goal in the second quarter. They were intercepted, and then they missed a third field goal in the game. They fumbled at the BYU 22. So they just blew a myriad of scoring chances in that game. Could easily have been a much different game against a very strong BYU team. So I don't think Cincinnati has quit or anything like that. I think Sorsby now taking on a more manageable pass defense will have a better game. And as it was, he threw for 300 yards against BYU, which had, as mentioned, my number 2 rated pass D. TCU, still, I haven't been blown away with them in any game. Maybe the North Carolina game to start off the year, but other than that, really not blown away. As mentioned, like the Colorado game was 21-21, and they're punting the ball with 5 minutes to go. They somehow win by 14. Even the West Virginia game, not a strong win for them, a close win, but not a great win. So I think Cincinnati's got a shot at the upset here on the road.
BYU laying a big number. I believe it's 17.5 against UCF this week. And Phil, they just keep winning. I mean, it sometimes doesn't look pretty or sexy, but they just keep finding ways to get W's on that schedule. And it looks like they'll have a good chance to get another one here. I guess even the better question is here. Do you feel like if they were to trip up at some point between now and, say, the selection committee makes their decision, do you still feel like they have a chance in that large spot too?
I think if they lose a game, it's going to be tough. I think a 10-2 BYU team it'd be tough to get in there. But as you mentioned, they just win every week, and here they're taking on a UCF team that just struggles on the road. This is a team that lost to K-State by 14 on the road, Cincinnati, Baylor, Texas Tech. None of their games have been all that close on the road this year. That Texas Tech game was an absolute annihilation. Probably not as close as 48-9 would call it. It was 38-2 at the half. UCF got a late score. So I think it's a good opponent for them to have. They're at home. They're in the altitude. They're cold weather against a warm weather team. A lot of advantages for BYU this week. I think that they come out with an impressive win here.
Well, now for this week's main event. You've done such a noble job all year of picking the Mountaineers and shooting us straight in what's been a struggling rebuilding year. Now the best team on the schedule comes to town. A top 5 Texas Tech team as a heavy favorite. Some might even say a prohibitive favorite, but I'm not going to go that far. Last I saw, the line had climbed to 24.5. So walk us through what you see playing out. You got Texas Tech coming off a bye like West Virginia. Of course, I can't imagine we're going to play like we did coming off our last bye in that blowout loss to UCF. It's the longest trip of the year for Texas Tech. Some crazy weather in Morgantown. Stranger things have happened. But Texas Tech is absolutely a complete football team. If West Virginia is going to make a game of it and pull off the miracle and shock the country, they're going to have to earn it. What do you see playing out here in this football game?
Well, Jed, believe it or not, I'm not going to call for an upset here.
Dang.
but I do think West Virginia stays within the spread here because Texas Tech, as dominant as they've been, and they have an excellent run D, which struggles for me because I think West Virginia needs to be able to run the ball to play great, although they did throw for 353 against Arizona State. But the weather has an advantage. And I think once you get to the second half, Texas Tech does not need style points anymore. What they need to do is simply win this game. And if they've got this game locked up, I'm worried about winning the Big 12 title game next week. That's going to be a huge matchup for me. So you may see them get a little conservative in the second half. And the one thing I've seen with West Virginia this year is they have pretty much been a scrappy team almost every single game. Now, that points your finger right at Rich Rod. I think Rich Rod is a hell of a coach. And I think this is an extremely scrappy team that's going to come in here with thinking they have a chance to win. And I think they're going to give good effort. So I like West Virginia plus the points in this one. I don't see Texas Tech getting their normal blowout. Their closest win all year has been by 22 points. I'm going to say they win by less than that this week. I'm going to I'm going to say less than 21, but no, I'm not going to call for the upset here. Although I'll say this. I did a Washington show prior to them playing Wisconsin. And I said, well, I think Wisconsin's going to be a good game, but I'm not going to call for the upset. And then Wisconsin goes and upsets Washington. So hopefully the same thing happens here.
Hey, we could be in store for something special. Phil, one more thing before we get out of here. Texas Tech, obviously, they're elite across the board in every phase of the game, but every team has some flaw. It may just be to what degree that flaw is. If there's one thing that maybe concerns you about Texas Tech, what would that be?
Boy, that's a heck of a question.
They do look like nitpicking for sure.
Yeah, they do look like a complete team to me. I mean, the offense, they can run the football. They, of course, can throw the football. They stop the run well, and they stop the pass well. Their defense holding opponents 114 below their average, their offense 100 below. I'm not really seeing a weakness in this team. This is a really good team. I think the way Texas Tech would have a shot at losing this game would be Texas Tech beating Texas Tech.
Yeah, generating some luck for sure. The ball bouncing West Virginia's way.
What's crazy, Phil, is they've done this. Run the football so consistently, almost 200 yards a game on the ground, despite losing what was supposed to be their bell cow, Quentin Joyner, the transfer from USC, in August. He hasn't played it down. They didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. It has been remarkable. And do you know where Texas Tech ranks in my special teams rankings?
Oh.
Are they toward the top?
Number 1.
Wow.
Okay. I took a peek at the Phil Steele Plus, so I'm cheating. But, yeah.
So so you were hoping for a weakness in special teams, but no, not there either. Sorry.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, maybe they catch a flu or something. No, we don't want to wish that on anybody. No. But we'll see what kind of luck West Virginia can conjure up this week, and if they can keep it close, maybe find a way to pull off the magical upset. Phil, we appreciate you for coming on here each and every week here on ITG. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll hope to do it here soon.
Yeah, a lot of fun as always, guys, and enjoy. You're both going to the game this weekend, right?
Jed will be.
Yeah,
Jed will
covering it. Yeah.
All right, awesome, Jed. Hopefully you come out of there with a shocking win, huh?
So number 6 all time against top 5 teams.
There you have it. Phil Steele, everybody, and make sure to check out his stuff on his website. Give him a follow on X, and make sure to get his preview next year. We're already going to start pumping that thing because it's going to be here before you know it. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff, and then we'll be right back into spring ball. So, Phil, we appreciate it, and we're going to get to a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to make our picks for this week's game.
When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready.
Low rate financing available on select Coyote models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun to round things out here on this Phil Steele Friday on ITG. We're getting to our picks here in just a second. But, Jed, before we do that, we got a let the people know a little interesting fact here. As Phil was leaving with us, off the air, of course, he was telling us that he's actually preparing already for next year's magazine, which obviously we kind of figured, it probably wouldn't take much longer after the season would be done. But he told us how early it was, and I was shocked by how early he's starting. And that's here in a couple of days.
Sunday. So he doesn't even wait for the conference championship games to get the jump on it. He does multiple write-throughs. It's a 3-phase process over the arc of 7 months. And it shows. I mean, say what you want about Phil Steele. You can't be in the public eye and do what he does without drawing criticism on some level. You're going to upset some people. You have to pick somebody last. Mountaineer fans were rabid about the fact he picked us last in the Big 12 this year. But the man does his research. I mean, it's thoroughly vetted. At least it's thoughtful. He might be wrong sometimes, but
that's
it's
human
a very
nature.
educated guess. And it's when you compare him to some of the other magazines on the market, the level of research that he puts into it's really not paralleled anywhere else in the magazine industry. I like what Pick Six does. Pick Six does a really good job with their magazine. I get the online version each year, and this
That's
year I
Brett
actually got the hard
Cancia,
copy
right?
too. But yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's Phil stands out for a reason. Phil stands out for a reason. When you look at some of the traditional print magazines, Athlon, Lindy, they all have their place, but their place isn't necessarily post-portal accuracy. It's
right.
It's not. And Phil does everything he can to make that. He holds the print date, everything he can do. But it's a 7-month project that really shows through in the final product. So, and I encourage you. I have a Phil Steele Plus membership in part because of what we do with Phil, but I would have it anyway.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there are some very useful tools in there that you'll hear him draw from every week when he talks to us, and some of the stuff he doesn't mention. So, I mean, there are future odds on there if you want to look at potential matchups of teams that aren't even playing. He'll have future Vegas odds on if this team played that team for the conference championship. So, it's almost a bottomless pit of resources that you can draw from, and a lot of work goes into what he does. He has a great team. We're of course in communication with some of his team because we have to coordinate what we do with Phil. But it's a heck of a project. It really is, and he takes his work very seriously and takes pride in it. Why wouldn't he? But yeah, and this partnership we've had with him, we thought about this a handful of years ago, the best way to approach this. And we wanted to cover at large the Big 12, and we wanted to cover the bigger picture of college football. But for us to do it justice, I don't know that we can, trying to invest as much as we can specifically in West Virginia. Yes, we follow it probably to a nerdier degree than most, but nobody follows it like Phil Steele follows it when you look at big picture. So I thought, you know what? Let's reach out and see if he'd want to be part of this. So we partnered up with him. What's it been, 3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years now in the books.
3 years running. And so there's only a handful of things that like this that he does around the country. And we're one of them. And I take a lot of pride in saying that. I think he took what we do to another level when you expand outside West Virginia and you're just looking big picture, Big 12. We've had some viewers and listeners tell us that it might be their favorite episode of the week, listening to Phil, because it's insightful. It's kind of cool. It's tailored toward West Virginia fans with our spin, right? But at the same time, it gives you what you need to know about the bigger games in college football outside the Big 12, but most certainly inside the Big 12. So I think he's been a great resource for us and for ITG.
Yeah, and you definitely don't get a person of his caliber to give you a full analysis and pick of West Virginia every week like Phil does here on ITG.
It's remarkable. It's just like, early in the season, you'll have some FCS team playing in a money game on the road against one of these teams we're talking about. And Phil will dive in and start telling you, well, this FCS team, most people just see all FCS teams as the same. Well, not Phil. He studies the FCS game teams like he does, the FBS teams. And so he'll say, well, last week against such and such, this FBS team did that. And that's kind of a rivalry game for them. And I would expect them in the first half to show up and do this. And you're like, I'm telling you, there's no limit to his research. So nobody's perfect, nobody's flawless, nobody's going to bat 1,000 or come close. But trust me when I say everything that comes out of Phil's mouth comes for a reason. It's thoughtful and it's research based.
He
And
is the
this
Shohei
time last
Ohtani
year,
of
yeah,
his industry.
absolutely. I mean, we had him. What was it? Last June, we brought him on to plug the magazine or
Yeah.
so before the season started, and I just flat out asked him, like, Phil, okay, you picked West Virginia dead last. What I need to know is, out of the 3 or 4 teams that could be picked dead last, what made us different? Why us and not one of the other? Why not Cincinnati, for instance? Okay, because think about it. Preseason, Cincinnati was in our bucket.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember because of the season they've had. But he said, okay, that's a fair question. I'm going to tell you why. In large measure, because of your schedule. You have a grinding schedule that is going to beat you up, and those other teams don't. He said, I would even go so far as to say Cincinnati's my dark horse because of their schedule.
And look what's
Cincinnati doesn't have West
transpired.
Virginia's schedule. And meanwhile, look now, here's Cincinnati, potentially, with 7 wins, trying to get 8. Nobody saw that coming except maybe Phil, who picked them as their dark horse because of the schedule. He gave us a well-researched, thoughtful reason as to why West Virginia was last. Hey, it's not because I don't like you. It's because your schedule's
Yeah.
rougher than the other 3 or 4 teams in your stratosphere. So,
And that's what
yeah,
Mountaineer fans should like about Phil, and that's what we try to do it too. Like we like to shoot it to you straight. And if you have somebody that can do that, then you can trust their opinion. If they really believe West Virginia can pull an upset, then you're going to know, hey, there might be something there. He was flat truth with us this week and said, probably not going to happen, but he likes a competitive game. And I will say this. Maybe I'll make a suggestion to Phil. Maybe he needs to put a little disclaimer at the bottom of his site and says, like, hey, if you start reading this and you go past 5 minutes, you might find yourself in a rabbit hole and you might get addicted and start neglecting some other things around the house because
so true.
it is such a fascinating place to go. And you can just spend so much time going through all the different things on there. But it is really interesting. So, all right, let's go and get to our final picks of the season here, Jed. I don't know if we haven't done a really good job this year of keeping up of wins and losses, but I think I'm up about 15 on you. So we'll just say that, and then maybe we'll give you 5 points this week for each one you get, so that way you have a chance.
You heard Phil in closing there talk about, hey, guess where Texas Tech special teams ranks? #1 in the country. So if you're looking for a weakness there, good luck. You're not going to find it. Again, I kind of took a peek into Phil Steele Plus, and remember they were toward the top. But that's something we haven't talked a whole lot about. Texas Tech features the Big 12's top 2 kickoff returners by average in Tristan Gentry and Jacoby Williams. West Virginia, meanwhile, when you look at Nate Flowers, his touchback rate for the year is only 47%. It seems higher because we all think back to that Houston game where he was 6 touchbacks and 8 kickoffs.
Yeah.
So we know he has it in him, that leg strength. This former all-state soccer player from Fairmont. So he has it in him. And boy, if he could maximize his ability and really get that touchback number more consistently up to where it was in that Houston game, he could be such a weapon for us moving forward. Maybe it starts this week. So the question is, in the cold weather in Morgantown on Saturday, will West Virginia see at least half of their kickoffs be touchbacks? I think it's critical if you're looking for something to build on. This is one of those things that I'd look for next year. The end of this year is the beginning of next year. That used to be everything about your team, what you looked at. Not now, not with the portal, not with the nature of the new game of college football 2.0. So, do you think we will hit 50% touchback rate with our kickoffs? First of all, let's hope there's bountiful kickoffs.
Yeah.
First of all, let's hope for that.
That's exactly where my mind was going. Is I'm thinking I'm going to say yes just because I don't know that there's going to be very many. So if you have 2 of them, you get one of them, or
50%
both.
or higher.
Yeah. So so it's got to be higher than 50%.
No, 50% counts. 50% or higher. So
I'll say yes because I'm going to say probably 3 kickoffs at max. You'd like for more, but it's against this Texas Tech defense. It's just hard to see it. So I'll say, yeah, I'll go over.
I'm going to say no because Let's hope it's more than we expect.
Yeah,
And in the
hopefully it's
cold
7.
weather with the cold ball, that's going to be a chore. But I hope I'm wrong. Because again, I truly want to see that develop into
And
something
hey,
we can build towards as a weapon next year.
maybe one of those is an onside kick at the end of the game.
Maybe. Now, let's think about this. Specific. You talk about specifics. This is getting specific. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
I talked about it with Phil. I talk about it in the preview. Baron Morton in his career is a much different quarterback on the road than he has been at home in Lubbock. Of course, most quarterbacks are better at home. It's a matter of degree, how much better at home. Here are his numbers at home: 42 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, career numbers. His career numbers on the road: 17 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. More specifically, in his career between the 40s, Schuyler, I bring this up for a reason. When you're between the 40s, that's typically when most play callers like to take a shot, right? So if you're going to take a shot downfield, an optimal place to do it on the field is between the 40s. So you see more shots downfield taken there than anywhere. In his career, between the 40s, 5 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And he has a couple interceptions this year between the 40s. So hasn't fared well, even at home, between the 40s in that shot area of the field. West Virginia this year, 3 of our 10 interceptions have become between the 40s. So very specifically, I'm not going to ask you if Baron Morton's going to throw an interception. I'm going to ask you if Baron Morton's going to throw an interception that comes between the 40s.
Oh,
yes or no?
Man, that's really tough. I'll say no.
Career, 5 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in his career between the 40s.
I know the numbers would suggest probably leaning yes, but I'm going to go no. And I don't really have a feeling for why, just my gut feeling. And I think they're probably gonna run the ball a decent bit more than they probably have. Just because I feel like if they get out to an early lead, they're not going to have to sling it around as much, and that eliminates some of those opportunities. So I'm going to say no, but that's purely a shot in the dark for me.
Play the odds on the odds, and I'm going to say Zach finds a way to steal one. When I look at his raw numbers for his career, that jumps out, that shot area of the field between the 40s, because that means 9 of his 20 career interceptions have come between the 40s. 45% of his career picks have come between the 40s. So
Danger
I'm going to
zone.
go ahead and say yes. If we're going to steal one, what better place to steal it than there? Because they might try and take a shot that's ill advised, or maybe something else happens. But he's been somewhat sloppy with the football between the 40s. So remember, you heard it here first. That's specific, right? That's specific. Okay. And then finally, prop number 3. We mentioned this in the preview. Scotty Fox, despite limited throws, he's only started a handful of games compared to some of the others in the conference. And yet he's tied for the Big 12 lead with 5 completions of 50-plus yards. Texas Tech, they get after you more so than anything with a 4-man rush. They drop 7 into coverage. It's tough to get upstairs on them, though. 3 times they've given up 50-yard completions this season. So it's not bulletproof, but it's just tough to climb the ladder on this defense, but not impossible. But Scotty's had a knack. And remember, one of those came on that screen to Sincere Bowers. So other things can happen. But the question is, question number 3, will Scotty Fox have a completion of 50-plus yards against Texas Tech? He has 5. Will he get another?
I'd love to see it. I really would. I think that defensive front is just so damn tough. They're going to get after him, and I just don't know. I feel like it's going to almost have to be a Sincere Bowers type play, or not necessarily a screen, just a bunch of yak. And as you mentioned on the preview, they tackle well. So I'll go no.
Well, I'll agree with you there. I'm going to go no, but I will say this. Our path to success might necessarily be, everybody's talking about, man, you can't run on him. You can't do this. You can't do that. I can't help but think, and that's true, few teams have had success running the football on them. They're very salty against the run. I mentioned in the preview, third best rush defense. I mean, everybody's going to jump to, hey, they lead the nation against the run. Okay, true, but the story starts there. Third best rush defense from a yards allowed standpoint in college football the last 10 years. So they are more than salty against the run. But Schuyler, how about this? How about if we have a path to a miracle, if we have a path to shock the world, maybe this kind of sort of looks like the TCU game.
Yeah.
We are more one dimensional than we'd like, but Scotty elevates his game, extends some plays outside the pocket. I talked about Sam Levitt doing that when Arizona State pulled the upset. Sam Levitt was extending plays and taking shots as he got off big plays downfield. Maybe they don't come in the form of 50-yard completions or anything like that. Maybe it's 30 or 40. He has a couple. I'll take that. If he can extend a play, buy himself some time, a couple of extra beats, get outside the pocket, maybe step up, then out. We've seen him do it a number of times. And again, even then, they're pressing and they're getting home. They will lay licks on you with these defensive caliber players they have in their front seven. So maybe he'll trade a few shots for a couple big plays. And this looks more like the TCU recipe, except we finished the job. Again, this is not me calling my shot. It's me saying that, hey,
Plaster it all
there's
over
a
the
path.
place. Jed's picking
Maybe
the
there's a
upset.
path maybe there's a path to success that we haven't considered. Everybody's saying, well, okay, if you're going to shock them, well, obviously it looks like you're the first team that ran the ball for 200 plus yards on them, and you got to do this and you got to do that, and they lead the Big 12 in turnover margin. You got to flip that on them. Well, maybe it doesn't look entirely like those things that you expect are path to miraculous success. Maybe instead it is more like the TCU recipe. We don't run the ball to the degree we'd like to, and we're more one dimensional than we're comfortable with, yet we make the most of that one dimension with some unexpected big plays in the pass game, not to the extent of 50 plus yards, but maybe a couple 30 or 40, move the ball, force some turnovers. Maybe it looks like that. I've been thinking that it could look more like that. Like not every game's Houston where you just come out and throttle in the run game, right? And just punch them in the mouth and shock them. We almost pulled off an upset against TCU. We came also ever close without really being able to run the football. Now we're not comfortable doing that. You wouldn't pick that. You wouldn't prefer that. But maybe against this defense, you have to try and do that. I don't know. So just consider that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it too, like you said yesterday, throwaways are a good thing, and you don't go broke making a profit on these checkdowns and whatever. So, and the other thing I look to in this, if you're looking for that recipe, the special teams unit has been much better over the last few weeks. I mean, you had the block punt for a safety, you had a blocked field goal against Arizona State, and you damn near had a second blocked field goal against Arizona State. So if you could find a way to get one of those to happen again and get points off of it, or maybe it's, P. Fox going out with a bang and having a way to return one, that's going to be how you manufacture these types of these upsets. It's always some big play in special teams usually helps that outcome out. So maybe it's something on special teams too.
It could be. And again, just speaks to the complete nature of this Texas Tech football team. Phil pointing out that they do rank number one of 136 teams in special teams.
Yeah.
They've populated their roster in such a way as even their transition units have talented players. So they get the job done in just about every way. So I do like the fact that we've at least turned a corner as of late from a special team standpoint, because you got to at least hold your own. I mean, when you look at starting field position, those are the types of things that if you want to pull an upset, you have to get a tilt in your favor in that way. And they rank offensively, their starting field position as an offense is number one in the country, in large measure because of their defense, right? That's the interconnectivity of complementary football that we talk about. So you're going to have to pitch in all three phases. Have to do a little something that's not expected. Maybe that means something that's not anticipated from a special team standpoint. But Schuyler, I keep going back to when you play a game like this that just seems like, man, I can't see a path for success. I'm not delusional. I don't see us just coming out and playing our standard brand of football and then playing their standard brand and things go our way. No, things are going to have to be atypical. You're going to have to do some things that aren't expected, and so are they. They're going to have to do some things that aren't characteristic of who they are. Now, maybe you can force them into some of those things. Again, maybe they can't knock the rust off coming out of the bye week. Maybe the long trip gets to them. They're not used to taking trips quite this long. Who knows how they're going to respond to this? They know they need this win to be secure mathematically for Jerry World in that path. But at the same time, I mean, why wouldn't they be confident and have some swagger and think that they can step into, a 4-7 team and take care of business if they just play their regular brand of football? I don't know what to expect out of them other than the fact that they've stepped up and they've taken care of their business just about every time out, except against Arizona State on the road. But the other time that they kind of sort of did, and Phil alluded to, and that was K-State on the road. They separated late there. There's 3 games this year that I think of, Schuyler. They lost at Arizona State on the road. K-State was a game until they separated late on the road. And people forget that game against a very good Utah team on the road was tied in the 4th quarter. So they are a different team on the road, but defense and special teams travels well. I'm going to leave the audience with this. I always think to this quote every time you're facing a team like this. Some of those Miami matchups we used to have, I think about this. When you're facing an elite team that's not just ranked, not just top 10, but top 5. Again, less than 50 times in the history of West Virginia football, we even faced these teams. Only 5 times have we beaten these teams. So it's obviously an extraordinary achievement when you do. Your name's going to be on the walls of the facility if you find a way to pull this off and navigate the upset. But I think back to my favorite sports movie of all time, Hoosiers.
Yeah.
And I think of the team chaplain in the locker room before the big game in Butler Fieldhouse, right? To go out and knock off the prohibitive favorite to win the state championship for Hickory High School. And David, he said, put his hand in the bag and took out a stone and slung it. And it struck the Philistine on the head, and he fell to the ground. Amen.
There you go. I don't know if there's a better way to end the episode. I was going to ask you something about the 4th down situations, but you can't end it better than that. So we're going to leave it right there. Yes, I'll go ahead and answer it myself. Rich Rod's going to be aggressive in this game. You're going to see some stuff that they're going to somewhat empty the kitchen sink, but within reason. Like you're not going to go for it in 4th and 14 on your own 22-yard line. You're not going to do stuff like that. You got to be smart with it. But
Joe, by the way, Schuyler,
they roll.
Guess who's number 1 in the conference? They're on, and 3rd downs, they're number 1 in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Guess who's number 1 on 4th down?
West Virginia?
Texas Tech.
You're talking offense or defense?
Defensively. Yes.
Defensively.
So not just 3rd down, but 4th down, they're number 1. Yes. Trust me, I've been looking high and low, and I keep going back to those Baron Morton numbers on the road. That's really the only thing I can cling to. Okay. So.
Well, maybe reach in, grab that stone, and maybe take down the Red Raiders and see what happens. But let's see. Make sure you show up to Mountaineer Field if you can. We understand there's a lot of things going on this weekend, deer season, all that, but if you can be there, make a difference, you can say you're a part of that. Because, if it does happen, 782,000 people are going to say they were there at that game. So,
I remember that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So make sure to go back, watch the final Barbecuing with the Beer Truck. He's got a nice little treat for you this week for your Thanksgiving meal, and we've got the preview going up, and we'll be back here in a couple of days, of course, to recap this action between West Virginia and Texas Tech, and then we'll dive into some signing day stuff, and Lord knows what's next. There's going to be a lot going on. Even though the season's ending, there's a lot of movement going on in the next month or so with the roster, so we'll be keeping track of all that as well. So for the Runaway Beer Truck, for Wes Uhler, for the Signal Caller, I'm Schuyler Callihan. The last thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. For Phil Steele as well, shout out to him for coming out here every week on the show. Greatly appreciate his efforts and his thoughts here on the ITG show. So thank you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you in a few days. Take care.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
Be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
Tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.